It's to start with, it's very painful to talk about this. Unfortunately, it's part of the genocide which has been happening live stream for the last 2 years, and it didn't stop. And that's part of the ongoing effect of the genocides happening. I would say it's part of the systemic torture, I would say abuse and disrespect to the Palestinian lives, numbers, stories. I remember when I was in Shifa hospital under the siege, they came and they stolen more than 250 bodies from the hospital. And they've done the same thing around Nasser Hospital in many of the areas which we didn't witness. So any area with grave or areas of dead bodies for the Palestinians, they were taken without paying any efforts or chance just to know which group of these dead bodies are there. So we don't know a lot of, like, more than thousands of dead bodies. We know nothing about them, and that's partly the way they, if I would remind you, a year ago, they've done it the same way. They gave the ICRC a truck full of dead bodies with no sign about who are these ones, which time they were killed, are the chances, even a single chance to know anything about them. At that time, the situation was very critical for the people to come and see their dead bodies. The Ministry of Health at the beginning refused to accept this truck as it has nothing, no information, but then they had to take it because it's Palestinian bodies, and they were buried without any chance to know anything about them. This time we were lucky, a little bit lucky, that we have a ceasefire, a very fragile ceasefire, with some ability to take photos, and they hardly managed to know 30 bodies out of more than 150. So this is part of the systemic situation. And again, they have done this for years and years. We have many Palestinians, we know nothing about them. They were taken into prison. We don't know if they were killed in prisons, killed on the way, or they are still in prisons. And that's, again, when someone tells us the stories which happened in 1948, I could never imagine what does it mean till now that someone would be very happy to hear that her husband is still alive in the prison when one of the prisoners was released recently. And then every one of these, I'm talking about thousands and thousands of Palestinians, they know nothing about their families, beloved ones, and they have to check between the dead bodies, the other prisoners, if they have heard their names or they know anything about them. So it's very obvious that the Israelis didn't pay any efforts to hide the evidence that they were torturing these prisoners or dead bodies. They kept actually the prisoners' tags with the numbers, with the initials of the prisons in all of these bodies. We can tell easily that even the ties were left in their hands and their heads, very tight ties on their eyes, more than 1 centimeter, pressure on the eyes can be seen easily. So they never cared about this because they know they won't be accountable for this. The international community, the international, I would say, players, all the West big countries are supporting them to the maximum, so they don't care about anything. The reflections of these are very massive on families. Someone is waiting for their beloved ones. They know nothing about them. Now they end up with hundreds of these dead bodies where they can't do anything. The big challenge to the Ministry of Health is totally collapsed system. They have no simple tools of knowing anything, no DNA. They can't start digging into these bodies when we don't have capacity to treat patients. So I was speaking this morning to the director of forensic medicine. He said, I got these dozens of bodies with cuts on that one. I don't know if the organs are taken or not. I can't tell you because these have been frozen for more than a year. I don't have the capacity for any operating theater. No one would allow me. I'm really sorry. The maximum, I just can't take photos. I asked, what about CT scan? He said, we hardly managed to get the CT scan for our patients. We don't have the capacity to do anything for these ones. We just take photos and bury them. Unfortunately, we will have to wait for a few days, just if one of the family members would come and see the bodies. But again, they know nothing. They have no tools. They are not allowed to get any DNA machine or anything for that one. So the findings are in the media everywhere. The photos are in the media, and in the coming few days, they will release more and more about it. They just try to collect the evidence from the Ministry of Health part of you. I would just say my testimony about the skin and organ, just stealing. I agree it's hard to have full evidence. We don't have evidence. We can't say 100% they have done this or that. But let me just say a few facts about this. Israel has the biggest skin a human skin bank in the world, with one of the lowest number of population in the world. They still have this biggest skin bank. No one knows anything about the source of this one. Two, as a plastic surgeon, I've been in the industry for a while. Most of the Israeli-based companies and research would come and talk about a lot of research on the skin products. We know it's very challenging to get approval for that, but we know that they try it on the prisoners. And one day, a few years ago, one of the companies, by just, when someone says the word that we tried this on one of the prisoners, and they have to pull that, and they have to stop, dealing with that company for that one. I would remind the people what happened in 2000. There was an interview with the head of, I would just say it as it is. It was reports talking about the use of the dead bodies to harvest heart valves, skin, corneas, and bones. And there was an interview with the head of Abu Kabir Forensic Institute in Israel, who has claimed and agreed on that fact that they have used the dead bodies without approval of their families. And then that was a big issue. His name is Yehuda Hess, okay, who said that in 2000. And the report was not, or the interview was not released till 2004 by an American scholar who said that's very controversial, that should not happen. Only by that time, when it became an issue in the media, the Israeli government said, actually, this had happened before. And we promised that this would follow the regulations and the Helsinki, agreement, that we have to take consent from the dead bodies, from the families of these bodies or someone. So unless this was released, no one ever would know about this. And that person has said that by mistake, and he was blamed a lot about this thing. Only by that time, the Israeli government said that. So they have a long history of using the dead bodies, parts of the dead bodies, which they already said that they have been using, and they promised they will stop using it, thanks to the Yehuda Hess who released this piece of information. So we don't have capacity to know what's happening, but we have history. We have evidence that they have the highest number of research on these dead bodies. They have the biggest skin bank, and a lot of things which will be released more and more from the Ministry of Health about the torture, about the prisoners with their prisoner tags on their bodies telling their stories. Haaretz said that they have, I think, more than 1,500 bodies in Sidi Tamam prison. Again, they were just put them in a fridge, and they don't care about the details of that for the dead bodies. It's a lot of painful stories, a lot of things to have. But I would say, again, it's our role now to collect the evidence, actually to sit on the side of the Palestinian Ministry of Health, help them to get this evidence the best way out, put pressure on the media, just they allow them to have DNA machines to know whose body are these, and to help them to sort out this big problem for the community, for the hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who know nothing about their beloved ones, families, parents, and kids. So that's our role now. And one day they will be accountable for this one. Thanks to meetings like this, thanks to people's effort who would just try to just say the truth loudly, and our legal bodies, international legal bodies, will be able one day to use this evidence against the ones committing the suicide and this Israeli government and military defense forces or military forces.